Good afternoon, students, and welcome to today's lecture on how to be an archaeologist. I'm your professor, Dr. Rob Steffen, and today we are going to learn to navigate the rooms of an ancient Greek temple. So, imagine this. You're standing in front of an ancient Greek temple, and then someone points and says, "Wow, that's a pretty cool building." You nod sagely and reply, "Yes, but did you know that the naos housed the cult statue and the pronaos was basically a fancy front porch?" And just like that, you're the most interesting person in the group. Now, Greek temples, they weren't just columns and pediments. They had distinct internal spaces, each with a specific function. So let's break them down so you can navigate a temple's floor plan like a pro. Let's go ahead and start with the pronaos, the fancy front porch. So before entering the inner sanctuary, you'd step into the pronaos, the temple's front porch. This wasn't just an entrance. It was a transitional space between the outside world and the divine realm. The pronaos typically had two columns framing the doorway, and sometimes included inscriptions or dedications. So if you see a temple with an open-air, columned front before the main chamber, well, you found yourself the pronaos. Think of it as the spot where ancient priests and temple goers mentally prepared for their divine interaction. Next up, we have got the naos, aka the sanctuary, or like I call it, the main event. The naos is sometimes called in Latin the cella, and this is the heart of the temple. This is where the cult statue of the god or goddess resided, making it the holiest part of the structure. You can kind of think of it like the VIP room, accessible only to priests and a select few of the wealthy aristocratic individuals. Now, unlike modern religious buildings, Greek temples weren't for congregational worship. Those rituals happened outside the building. And the naos, that was more of a divine storage unit, a almost holy house for the deity's presence. So if you're looking at a temple and wondering where Zeus or Athena would have hung out, the naos is your answer. Alright, next up we've got the funnily named Opisthodomos, the temple's VIP storage room. So, if a temple had a pronaos, chances are it also had an Opisthodomos, a room at the back of the temple, offering kind of mirroring the pronaos in design, but facing the opposite direction. But this wasn't just for symmetry. The Opisthodomos served as the storage unit for offerings, for treasury funds, and for important dedications. The Athenians, for instance, used the Opisthodomos of the Parthenon to store the city's treasury. If a Greek temple looks like it has a back porch, but it's actually a secure vault for sacred loot, then, my friend, you are looking at the Opisthodomos. Alright, now let's conclude with the Adaton, the ultra-restricted inner chamber. So, if the naos was VIP access, then the Adaton, well, that was VIP plus, an even more restricted area within and behind the naos. It was reserved for only the highest ranking priests or oracles, so the Pythia, or the high priestess of Apollo, she would have operated out of the Adaton within the temple. Now, not all temples had an Adaton, but when they did, That was kind of where the extra sacred objects or the most secret rituals would have taken place. Think of it as the kind of ancient equivalent of a classified government archive. Only those with the highest clearance got in. So if the temple has a small, tucked away inner room within the naos, then, my friend, you've found yourself the Adyton. Okay, so let's conclude with our Greek temple room cheat sheet. Starting off, we've got the pronaos, that is the front porch, marking the transition from the mortal to the sacred space. Next up, we've got the naos, or in Latin we call it the cella, the main chamber, home to the cult statue, the divine residence of the god. Then facing backwards, we've got the opisthedomos, the back room that was often used as a treasury or a storage space. And then finally, we've got the Adyton. This was the ultra-restricted area for special rituals, and only some of these temples had one. And there you have it. So next time you're visiting a Greek temple, you won't just see an ancient building. You'll see a carefully designed sacred space with distinct functions. Now go forth and explain Greek temple layouts like a pro.